All right, so today we're going deep on online dating scams.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be looking at this Reddit post that I found about a scam in Thailand
Okay.
that almost worked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the person who posted it almost got scammed, but they managed to back out at the last minute.
That's good.
But it's a really good learning experience, I think, for all of us to see how these scams work.
I think so, too. Yeah.
So this post is from the R Thailand subreddit,
Okay.
and it's called Warning. Online dating scam asking you to pay for their taxi, Bolt, or whatever, but never show up.
So they didn't even bother showing up. They just take the money and run.
Yeah, basically.
Oh.
So we're going to kind of break this down, see what red flags there were, and see what we can learn about staying safe online dating.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can learn from this.
Totally. Okay, so the story starts with this guy, the OP. He matches with a woman on a dating app, and she says she lives like an hour away.
All right.
So that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But then the first weird thing is she asks him to pay for her Bolt ride, even though she's already ordered it.
That's a little strange.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I feel like in most dating situations, the person who sets up the transport pays for it.
Right.
So that's kind of a red flag right there.
Totally. But the OP, he's like a nice guy, and he agrees.
Okay.
Now, this is where it gets crafty.
Okay.
She starts sending him location updates every 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh, I'm here now.
So she's trying to build trust.
Yeah, like to make it seem like it's really happening.
Right, exactly. It's like a breadcrumb trail
Yeah,
to make him feel more secure.
totally. And she even sends a picture in the car.
Oh, really?
But of course, the face is hidden in the photo.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so you can't actually tell who it is.
Got to stay anonymous.
Yeah, exactly.
Play.
Okay, so 5 minutes before she's supposed to arrive, she sends a QR code
Oh, no.
for a bank transfer for the payment.
Okay.
But this is where the OP does a really smart thing. He says, no, I'm going to pay you cash when you get here.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
That's a good move.
And what do you think happens next?
She ghosts him.
She ghosts him completely.
Wow.
No show deleted messages unmatched on the app.
She was never coming.
She was never coming.
That's crazy.
So that's where his street smart saved him.
Yeah, because if he had sent that bank transfer, it would have been gone.
Gone.
Oh, man. Good for him.
But this is where the Reddit thread gets really interesting.
Oh, how so?
A bunch of other people chimed in and said they'd almost fallen for the same scam.
Really?
Yeah, like it's clearly a thing.
Wow. That's so interesting that it's like a common scam.
Yeah, like a whole network of Bolt bandits.
Wow. So it's good that people are talking about it because then other people will know to watch out for it.
Totally. It's like a community defense system.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was this whole debate in the comments about whether paying for a date's transport is normal or not.
Oh, interesting.
Some people were like, yeah, it's just common courtesy. And others were like, that's so weird. I would never do that.
I guess it depends on the culture and also just personal preference.
Yeah, sure.
Like some cultures, it's totally normal for one person to pay. And in other cultures, it's like you always split the bill.
Right. And also, I think just like what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. You should always talk about it beforehand.
Yes. Communication is key.
Yes.
So we've got this scam, we've got the near miss, we've got the whole community weighing in.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But before we go any further,
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to talk about the possibility of victim blaming.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Because it's easy to think, oh, I would never fall for that.
Right.
But these scams are designed to be convincing.
Exactly. And they prey on people who are vulnerable.
Yeah, like people who are lonely or looking for connection.
Right. Or just trusting.
Yeah, and it's human nature to want to believe the best in people.
Exactly. So we shouldn't shame people who have fallen for scams.
Totally. It's about raising awareness, not making people feel bad.
I agree.
So we should continue our deep dive into this scam and what we can learn from it.
Yeah, let's get into it. All right.
I'm ready.
Okay.
And you know what else is great about this Reddit thread?
What's that?
People were actually sharing tips on how to avoid getting scammed like this in Thailand.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. One person said, you can check the account holder's name before making a bank transfer.
Yeah, exactly.
Through some Thai banking apps.
Yeah, so if you're ever asked to send money to someone you met online in Thailand, it's worth checking their name first,
That's a great tip.
just to make sure it's actually them.
Right, like an extra layer of security.
Exactly.
And it shows how important it is to know the local context.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what might seem normal in one country could be a red flag in another.
Totally, and that's where online communities like Reddit can be so helpful.
Right, because people who actually live there can share their insights.
Exactly.
It's like having a global network of friends looking out for you.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so we've talked about the scam, the near miss, the community response, and some practical tips.
Yeah.
but I think it's time to zoom out a bit.
And look at the bigger picture.
All right.
What does this whole incident tell us about online dating scams in general?
Well, I think it shows how technology has become a double-edged sword.
How so?
On one hand, it makes it easier than ever to connect with people from all over the world.
Right, like dating apps and social media?
Exactly. But on the other hand, that same technology can be used to scam people.
Yeah, it's like a tool for both good and bad.
Right. And I think it also highlights the emotional aspect of these scams.
Yeah, because scammers are really good at playing on people's emotions.
Exactly. They know that when you're looking for love or companionship, you might be more likely to let your guard down.
And they prey on people who are feeling lonely or vulnerable.
Right. Or just eager to find a connection.
And they create these fake profiles that seem too good to be true.
Exactly. They shower their victims with compliments and promises.
Yeah, it's like they're creating a fantasy world.
And it can be very tempting to get swept up in it.
So how do we protect ourselves?
Well, I think it's important to remember that online dating is still a form of online interaction,
Right.
and we need to be just as cautious as we would be in any other online space.
So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly.
Verify information.
Yeah.
And trust your gut instinct.
If something feels off, it probably is.
Right. It's better to be safe than sorry.
And if you're ever unsure, talk to a trusted friend or family member.
But you get a second opinion.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology, the emotional aspect, and the importance of caution.
Yeah.
But what about the scammers themselves? What can we do to stop them?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I imagine there's no easy answer.
It's a global problem, and
Yeah.
it's constantly evolving.
Like a game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you shut down one scam, another one pops up.
So is it even possible to win this fight?
I think it's more about managing the problem than completely eradicating it.
Okay, so how do we manage it?
Well, it requires a multifaceted approach.
Like what?
Well, one key aspect is education.
So making sure people are aware of the different types of scams.
Exactly, the tactics they use, the red flags to look out for.
So empowering people with knowledge.
Right. The more people know about scams, the less likely they are to fall victim.
I notice.
Another important facet is reporting.
Oh yeah, if you've been scammed, you should report it.
Exactly, even if you haven't lost any money or you're embarrassed about it.
Because every report helps.
It helps law enforcement agencies track patterns, identify perpetrators, and develop strategies for prevention.
Like adding another piece to the puzzle.
Exactly.
Okay, so education, reporting, and what else?
Well, technology itself can also play a role.
How so?
As scammers become more sophisticated in their use of technology, we need to develop equally sophisticated tools to counter them.
So it's like a technological arms race?
In a sense, yes, we need to keep innovating to stay one step ahead.
That's interesting.
So that might involve developing new security features for dating apps and social media platforms,
Oh, wait.
creating more robust systems for identity verification, or even using artificial intelligence to detect and flag suspicious activity.
Wow, that's really cool.
But it's not just about technology.
Right. There's also the human element.
Exactly. We can't forget about empathy and support for those who have been victimized.
Because being scammed can be a really traumatic experience.
Yeah, it can be deeply upsetting and embarrassing.
So it's important to offer compassion and understanding.
Exactly, not judgment.
We need to create a culture where people feel comfortable talking about these experiences.
Without fear of shame or blame.
Yeah, exactly.
And by doing that, we can encourage more people to report scams and share their stories.
And help others avoid becoming victims.
Right. It's all about building a community of awareness and support.
I love that.
Me too.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
The scam itself, the role of technology, the emotional impact, the importance of education and reporting, and the need for empathy and support.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up.
Yeah.
This Reddit post focused on a very specific type of scam,
Right.
but it got me thinking about online deception in general.
Oh, yeah.
Like the tactics used in this scam can be seen in other online contexts too.
Absolutely. Like romance scams, phishing attacks, fake investment schemes.
It's like a whole universe of deception out there.
Then it can be really hard to know who to trust.
So what are some general principles we can apply to protect ourselves online?
Well, one fundamental principle is skepticism.
Like, don't believe everything you see.
Right. Be wary of unsolicited messages, offers that seem too good to be true, and requests for personal information or financial transactions.
So be a healthy skeptic.
Exactly.
Not necessarily distrusting everyone, but being cautious.
Right. And another key principle is verification.
Okay, so like if someone claims to be a certain person, check their social media.
Exactly. Do a Google search. Look for independent sources to confirm their identity.
Do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And what about those situations where you can't verify the information?
That's where you have to trust your gut.
If something feels
But
off.
if your intuition is telling you something isn't right, it's usually best to err on the side of caution.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great note to end on for this part of our deep dive.
I agree.
We've talked about a lot of serious stuff,
We have.
but it's important to remember that we can still enjoy the benefits of online interaction
Yeah, absolutely.
while staying safe and informed.
The online world is a vast and dynamic space.
It is,
There's so much to explore and discover.
but we just have to be aware of the risks.
Yeah, and take steps to protect ourselves.
Well said.
Thank you.
And for our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights
Yeah,
and tools to navigate the online world with confidence and caution.
absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about the scammers and their tactics, but I'm curious about why.
Yeah, like what makes someone become a scammer?
Right. What drives them to do this?
It's a good question, and it's really complicated. I mean, it's easy to think of scammers as just greedy or malicious.
Right, like bad people.
Yeah, but it's often more nuanced than that.
So what are some of the reasons?
Well, for some people, it might be economic desperation.
Oh,
Like, they might see scamming as a way to survive.
especially in places with limited job opportunities
Exactly.
or a lot of poverty.
Right.
So it's not always about being greedy.
No, sometimes it's just about trying to make ends meet.
Yeah, that's really sad.
It is.
Are there other reasons?
Yeah, sometimes it might be about warped morals or a lack of empathy.
So they don't see their victims as real people.
Right, they might dehumanize them
Wow,
to make it easier to justify their actions.
that's messed up.
Yeah.
And then there's also the thrill-seeking aspect,
Oh, right. Some scammers might enjoy the challenge of the con.
like outsmarting their victims.
Exactly.
So it's like a game to them,
In a way, yeah.
and they get a sense of power from manipulating people.
It can be addictive.
So what can we do to stop them?
Well, it's a complex issue, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
It requires a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
On a societal level, we need to address the underlying issues that contribute to scamming.
Like poverty and lack of education
Exactly.
and inequality.
Right.
So it's about creating a more just world.
Yeah, where people don't feel driven to these desperate measures.
And what about on an individual level?
We can educate ourselves and others about scam tactics.
Right, and report scams to the authorities.
Yes, and support those who have been victimized.
So it's about empowering ourselves and each other.
Exactly.
This deep dive has really made me think about online scams in a whole new way.
Me too.
It's scary how sophisticated they've become.
Yeah, it's important to stay vigilant.
For sure.
And remember, knowledge is power.
Right, the more we know, the better we can protect ourselves.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, trust your gut.
And if something seems too good to be true,
It probably is.
that's great advice.
Thank you.
And if you've been a victim of a scam, you're not alone.
Right. There are resources available to help.
And reporting the scam can help prevent others from becoming victims.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and stay curious.